So this is Robbins Podcast, first episode, first season. Brought
Season
to you
1.
Down home at the office, on the old bench in the training room. Today we're going to talk a little bit about maintenance and what maintenance does for a homeowner and for a business owner. And have Skylar here with us, our install manager, Drew, our service manager.
Howdy.
Steve, the owner of Robbins Heating Air Conditioning. And then myself, who's the sales manager. I'm Richard. We're going to start out with an icebreaker.
Icebreaker.
If you could pick any idol or hero in your life to spend the day with, which one would it be and why? Start with Drew.
Start with me. This is a tough one. I think for me, you're thinking about it, very much growing up, I was very, very involved in sports, and I've always been a fan of the underdog. And so, I don't know if you ever heard of Josh Hamilton, baseball player, outfielder? No, nothing? Okay. So long story short, in 1999, the dude was the number one overall draft pick in the draft, outfielder. Dude was legit. Played about 3 seasons in the minors. He battled some issues with injuries and stuff like that. And I think it was that third season or so in the minors, he had a season-ending injury. And in between those stints, he kind of dabbled in drugs and stuff like that. But long story short, after that season-ending injury, he went completely off the deep end and got kicked out of the league because he failed the substance policy, the whole nine, and just completely fell into drugs, addiction, and the whole nine. And one day he woke up after an all-night bender type deal and woke up on his grandmother's porch step. No clue how he got there, nothing. And it was in that moment he had, with his grandma, he had that reflection and realized he needed to change his life. He had nothing going for him. He had anything going for him at that point. And at that point, he turned his life around and he found Jesus with the help of his grandma. And within the next 2 or 3 years, he was able to get clean. And then within 2 seasons of getting back to eligible for the MLBs, he was the AL MVP. He was the home run derby. I think he won the home run derby championship. One of the most exciting home run derbies in general in MLB history, and completely turned his life around. And so for me, I think I'd like to sit down and talk to him and see how that went and how he found that inner peace and how he found that strength to get and overcome that huge hurdle of addiction like that, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to struggle with addiction with substance or anything like that. We all struggle with something, but to have that kind of strength and confidence to be able to fall onto Jesus and stuff like that is something that I admire, because, you know, I'd like to always get closer and do stuff like that, but how he did it and turned his whole life around and has changed a whole bunch of people's lives in a positive way is pretty impressive. I'd like to hear exactly how that happened and what did for him. So I'd have to choose him.
Steve, what about you?
So I don't think mine's necessarily a person. It's a time. I'd like to go back to 1776. That seems like a good time. Right? If you look at the times there, right, it was just a bunch of people that they felt that they were not being treated right by their government or their rulers. And just knowing that what they were doing, if they were not successful, they were going to be killed. And I think the fact, the bravery that those guys had, and just knowing that, you know, it was all in. There was no, hey, you know, just kidding. Really don't want to do this. But they knew that as soon as they signed those tickets, it was a death sentence if they lost. And so, you know, I kind of like that, and I like that era and the history that comes with that. And I obviously love our country, right? And I love what came out of that and what they built, and it's still standing today. And a lot of governments have been built after that and after that model. And a lot of people love that freedom that comes with it. So the founding fathers probably would be the guys that I'd want to hang out with for a little bit and figure out what it was that drove them to go all in.
This might sound really ignorant, but what do you think, like, if any, HVAC was like then? Like, was there anything at all?
Or they just got some ice
It's
cubes and blew some air across it.
Yeah, you know,
It's so hot.
Firewood.
As soon as you said that, I was all, I wonder, like, if anything, like even the super.
Now you
rich
read the
people,
book,
you
right?
know,
They're sitting there in Philadelphia in that meeting, and it's July, and it's hot.
they're
And
sweating
it's
because they
humid.
wear those long
Yeah,
freaking
and the
Yeah, and
wigs.
the wigs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can't do the
with
wigs.
whatever this thing is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
heck
thing.
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
heck no. No, that'd be miserable.
Skylar, what
Well,
about you?
he told a sob story. You went back in time. I think I'd probably have to go with Inky Johnson. You might know who that is. A lot of people don't, but he's a motivational speaker now. But he's a guy that he used to play for Tennessee, and back in the early 2000s, I think. But now he's a motivational speaker. But he had a career-ending injury on the field, something similar, except he's his entire, I think it's his right arm, he still can't move it. It doesn't move anything at all. But he just talks about how his time to that and how he kind of persevered to that and his life. He speaks a lot about his life before he got there. He was going to be an awesome draft pick, first round draft pick, the whole nine, and then how his entire life changed in a flash. It's crazy to have someone experience that, someone who's now paralyzed, and how they get to that. I think had anything in my life, my mom is paralyzed now, so it's people that deal with bam, and now your whole life is different. You were about to make millions and millions of dollars. Now you're not going to do anything, and you got to figure out how you're going to pick yourself up and get back on track to where you're going. So I think it'd be cool to hang out with somebody super positive that has the kind of similar to you, the strength and the will to be able to step up and who cares what happened to you? Who cares what's got you down? It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Let's keep moving and keep going. So I feel like that'd be really cool to kind of get his insight on life. So
That's awesome. I think I thought about a few different people. I didn't think of a time, but I thought of a few different people. And one that comes to mind is Chris Ledoux. And I always wanted to go to a Chris Ledoux concert before he died. But if you look at some of his backstory, he tells some stories about when he was first getting into rodeo and how they would be down on their luck, not winning, and they literally show up to cafes and eat food off of people's plate that they left behind because they didn't have any money. Yeah. But he just kept chasing that dream. And then he talks somewhat about he was never as gifted as some of these athletes are, but he worked really hard for what he did. And everybody talked about Chris Ledoux's riding style and how it was just wild and out of control, but he just held on and gritted it out. And I think that's a little bit about my life. I don't feel like I've ever been real gifted at one certain thing, but as far as that goes, just grit and determination can get you a long ways. So just to see that mindset of somebody who's positive all the time, keeps chasing their dreams and looks for that opportunity to win and succeed with what they've been given. So.
Or even when you think about it, just the different situations we've each talked about, how, like Skylar said, a change in your life, you got to find a different thing to fight for. Something always, you never know what life's going to give you, but don't ever stop fighting. It might not go the direction you want it to, but each one of us stories, someone's fighting for something. It might not always been the plan you wanted, but you always got to find something to fight for.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into some stuff about business. Steve, as an owner of the company, if you could switch roles with anybody else in the company for a week, who would it be and why?
Does that mean that they would have to do what I do?
Yep.
he did say switch roles.
Sweet.
JoJo.
$10, it's not you or me.
I'll be 100% honest. I'm not very good at the office stuff, so it wouldn't be an office person. And I really enjoy service and install, right? And I had the ability to be able to do both of them. Some people are good at one or the other. And to be honest with you, I'd like to switch roles with a service tech. And I enjoy that challenge, the idea of solving problems and being able to fix stuff, and especially stuff that nobody else can fix. So I think at the end of the day, I would like to pick one of those service techs to do what I do. But to be honest with you, I think the service realm really kind of fulfills my desire to find detailed problems and fix those.
Drew, what about you?
For a week, honestly, I think surprisingly, I would switch with, because it's something new, I would switch with an installer to be able to see the different side. Because being on the service, for the most part, my entire time here at Robbins has been on the service side. So learning through trial and error, and all the stuff I put Steve through for 8.5 years at this point. For me, it would be I'd switch to install, because it'd be able to give me a little bit better of a full rounded perspective to see what exactly an installer goes through day in and day out. Right? It's only for a week, but nonetheless, I think it'd be fun. It'd be hard, challenging. Don't get me wrong. But I definitely would soak up the knowledge to be able to see what Skylar and his guys go through on a daily basis. I think that'd be fun. And then they'd get sit and do what I do. I want to put a video camera and go through and switch phones and let them go through that. But yeah, I give Skylar a hard time enough, right? We have our inside jokes and stuff, but all reality, I'd like to see what they get a taste of. That'd be good.
Mine would definitely be a comfort advisor. I
what
don't
I'm
know.
talking about,
Yeah,
dude.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I can sell something. I mean, I know enough about it where I feel like I could, but just because you know about a car don't mean you could sell a car. HVAC is awfully. I mean, it's a lot different, right? People spend a lot more time in their homes than they do their vehicles, but I feel like that would be a fun challenge, definitely. And please let Hunter come into my be the install manager and let him make some decisions. So maybe the guys would appreciate me more, or they might hate me. He might do a hell of a job, and they might not like me. So yeah,
After this morning, your department may be a little rough.
Yeah.
Give Hunter some skills and leadership there.
Yeah.
But, no, he did a great job.
Yeah, I thought he did too. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good one.
What would I do? Let's see. I'd probably switch with the duct cleaning technician, just to go see what that's all about. And I don't know, there's something humbling in that, just to put everything on, not have to worry about anything, just get to go out, do my job, be a rock star at it, and get to know the customer real well. And I don't know, just something about that.
That's kind of that's a really good point. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't know when the last time I had like a clear mind was, that you weren't worried about something. If
else.
you sit there and think about that now, I mean, it's like, man, just to have a simple task, you don't have to worry about anything else. All you got to do is answer your phone, go to the deal, go to the thing, make the phone call, show up when you're supposed to. Man, this is nice. Not saying their job is easy, but by any means, but it'd be nice to have a clear conscience for once.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to worry about your phone ringing 1,000 times. What's Richard calling for? Why is Drew calling? What's he doing? That's weird to think about now.
Yeah. All right. So
the simple
speaking
things.
of
All the simple things.
speaking of just different roles in the company, we've all had them, the nightmare jobs or the situations that could have been prevented by a lack of maintenance. You guys have anything that comes to mind as far as just, you show up at the job and it's just a total nightmare. The equipment's in shambles, the customer's upset because it's not running, and it all could have been fixed just because of one simple thing. Anything you guys can think of, experiences there?
I have a perfect one. Just recently, the pool room incident. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't have any type of fresh air no type of makeup air, no type of exhaust or anything. A 6-year-old furnace is completely rusted out, or a 6-month-old furnace is completely rusted out. There's no filter because the maintenance guy took the filter out because it was hammered and soaking wet. All the ceiling tiles that were brand new put in. It not only ruined the HVAC side of thing, it ruined the entire project. So, control board's got rust on it. Gas pipe, all brand new gas lines it's all rusted just for just simple lack of maintenance at that. Not understanding what the chlorine and stuff will do to that is just. It even kind of blew my mind how fast it happened, when I walked in and seen it and seen that transformer all rusted, and I was all, holy crap. Like, I'm the one that installed it, so I was all, I can't believe it. I just installed this a couple months ago, so that was pretty crazy. And then, of course, right when I took the door off, my first question was, where's the filter? Like, where did the filter go? He said,
I put one in.
Yeah, he said, I took it out. It was all wet. I said, you have to put another one in there, brother. You got
At least air that one out and put it back.
Man, or do something. Yeah, anything to, stop all that debris from going inside your system. So,
Yeah, I think it just a phone call goes a long ways, right? He's the maintenance guy and not maintaining the system, but if something's wrong, like, let somebody know about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on the service side, we see a lot of that, right? You see a lot of homes we go into on a daily basis where something as simple as people don't even realize there's a filter in their home. You know what I mean? Where, you mean this has a filter? How long you been here? Well, 6 years.
Yeah,
Well,
you pull it out, looks like a Christmas sweater.
Yeah, it's just completely hammered. And to be honest, with some of that stuff, it's impressive it ran as long as it did, being how hammered it was. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's the service side, we try to make sure at the end of the call, the customer knows more about their system than when we arrived. So that's one of our main goals when we go out there is hey, here's where your filters are. Here's the importance of the filters. And, at the end of the call, typically, well, how often are we supposed to change it? Well, it depends on where it's located. On the floor, right, you're going to want to have it a little bit changed a little more frequently, especially if you got dogs that shed and all that other stuff. But it's crazy to see how something as simple as a filter can be so destructive to a heating and air system. It's impressive. A $10 filter can save you thousands in the end.
Yeah, and realistically, when we look at that, it's very heartbreaking when you go in and it's a 5-year-old system, and you pretty much at the point of you got to condemn it, right? We've got a busted compressor that's been flooded back to, and you got to let the customer know, that because we didn't change those filters, or the lack of maintenance is due to this high ticket repair. And they're like, man, I could have prevented that. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. That's a tough thing. Especially it's something that we think of because we do it all the time, right? But your average homeowner is not educated to something that's in their own home that's filtering air throughout their house all the time. So it's just kind of a weird dynamic of, we think it's, why didn't you do that, right? And they were just never informed on it. They had no idea. Somebody came in and put it in, or they moved in.
Yeah.
And, it just, I guess the heat worked when I moved in.
Yeah. The inspector gave it the old thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Go.
Yeah, I even find at my own house the filter gets dirty. I'll yell, oh, shoot, I need to change that, right? But we have the knowledge and the know-how of how often that should be done, and realizing we're behind schedule. And I, just being an average homeowner who's not in the industry, you could see where that just kind of goes out the wayside. Oh, yeah, I need to change that filter. You got 1,000 things going on. So if the HVAC guy can forget his filter needs changed, the average homeowner probably even more so.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not on the forefront.
Yeah.
Kids screaming.
Let's see.
Was that my house home?
That was your house. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There's 8 of them.
Yeah.
So let's take ourselves out of our shoes as professionals for a minute and think about how people view their heating and air system. Just a broad general question. How do you think that's perceived? Like, you're going to go in, you're going to buy a house, or you've lived there for 5 years. How do you view your heating and cooling system?
Us personally, or?
No, it's step out of your shoes as a professional and into the shoes of just an average homeowner. What's your view on your heating and cooling system?
I think just from some of the customers that we get calls in, they just moved in and they have no idea. They don't understand SEER ratings. They don't understand efficiencies or anything. So they just moved into the home and they just see it passed inspection. So, I don't think someone in general has no idea as far as how efficient or not efficient their equipment is, or even the state of the condition of it. So I think most of it is, as long as it turns on and it heats and it cools, it doesn't matter. And that in the end, I think most people potentially look at what the kitchen looks like, what the bathrooms are. I think the heating and air, as long as it turns on and off, is on the end of the the bus, if you will, in the back of the bus for mind.
I think you're kind of at a good point. What I would say about it is people don't, right? They don't think about it until it doesn't work. And then it's like, hey, hold on a minute. So, there's something going on here, and I'm not quite sure what it is. So, I mean, I would agree with that. Before I started doing this, I didn't pay no attention to my furnace. I think, be honest with you, I think I didn't have a filter in my old house for, as long as I lived there 3 or 4 years. So I don't think I still don't know if there ever was a filter. If there was, it was in there. I don't think I ever changed it. So, it's just, it'll go to show you, like, just a little bit of education on someone will just make a huge difference, like, hey, all you got to do is just change this filter, here and there, make sure this is clean, make sure this is taken care of, get this checked out. Makes a world of difference on spending thousands and thousands of dollars at the end of the day. So,
yeah, for me, I think it's very hard for me to step out of that, right? I've been doing this for 25 years. That's more than half my life. So it's one of those things for me, it's hard to step out. But if I look at, right, when I started into this industry, I had no idea what HVAC was, right? There was a thermostat on the wall in our house growing up, but you didn't touch that, right? I mean, there was a whooping that come from touching that thing, right? And we never used the furnace. We had a fireplace, and we had coal, and we burned coal, and so that was our heat, right? And so for me, moving into an industry that we really didn't touch, every now and then my dad would go up on the roof and jack with the air conditioner. Well, I didn't know it was a swamp cooler, right? An evaporative cooler. I didn't know what that was. And so, it's just kind of interesting. I think a lot of people don't really look at that. I've got a brother-in-law that's from Oklahoma, and he moved here. Oklahoma's pretty humid, right? They all they had was refrigerated air. He bought a big old nice house that had a swamp cooler on it, and the guy died. He's just like, this is ridiculous. I don't know how anybody ever thought that this would work. And so I think moving in or buying or purchasing a house, it's not on the forefront. It's do I have enough room for my kids? Does it have the TV room? Does it have whatever it is that they may be looking for? But at the end of the day, the heating and air conditioning system is something that's overlooked way too often as far as age and what it is, and am I going to be comfortable with this $300,000 purchase or whatever it may be? So,
yeah, I think I look at that as far as same thing. Been in the industry for a little bit, so it's hard to think about that outside because we talk about it day in and day out. But we know what new features are in the next Ford truck. We know what new features are in the next TV we're going to buy. Those are advertised, they're marketed, we see them, they're in our face, but people don't realize what heating and air conditioning has to offer. It's just a box to most people that blows hot and cold, and when it doesn't work, I'm going to let somebody know about it. Mm-hmm. The other thing I think is, you really don't understand what goes into it to make it run properly, to keep its efficiency up, to allow things to work like they should. I never did. I just knew if it gets cold in the house, we adjust the thermostat or ask Dad if we can, and then at that point,
better ask.
Yeah, we always got to ask. But as far as that goes, it's just crazy because it's in a crawl space, it's in an attic, it's on a roof. Well, think about it. Mm-hmm. It's out of sight, out of mind, and there's a lot of cool things now being in the industry. I think that people don't realize their heating and cooling system could do for them if they allowed that to happen, if they were interested in it as much as the next new vehicle that was coming out and stuff like that. So, and then I think the last thing I was going to say, how expensive they are. I never, grew up realizing how much a furnace replacement would cost me, right? Or how much a heating and cooling combination system would cost me. And so knowing how expensive those systems are and how well that needs to be maintained so that is not a early or surprise expense is super important. So, along with that, so I was going to flip that question. As pros, how would we recommend they view it differently? If you could pick one tip or one thing of how you see a heating and cooling system and convey that to a homeowner, what would you say to them?
I think for me, if you're talking just one thing, like if you can choose one thing to tell them about maintaining it, I guess, just change your filter. Out of anything, that's literally, probably 50% of the problem. Most of the time, hey, that thing hasn't been changed in years. I don't understand how it's still running, but at this point, but and just make people more conscientious. Like if your house, you have no secondary heat, like you have no heat. If you don't take care of this and you don't do what you need to do to keep this thing up and running and try to do some maintenance on it, then it's not, I mean, you want your car to run and drive, so you go get the oil change and you check the air filter and you do things of that. So why would you not do the same for your house? I guess it's the HVAC system in a car analogy always fits well for me because one, this is what I do for a living, and two, I know a little bit about cars too as well. So it always fits hand in hand for me. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Skylar. I think it's one of those is putting it a precedence or a forefront of how important your heating and air system is. Most people put it as a priority when it's broke. You know what I mean? Oh, I need to have this now, especially during the heating season. You know, you got to worry about your pipes freezing, stuff like that. But, you know, again, like Skylar said, I think I always try to relate stuff to cars because everybody wants to make sure their car runs and get as good gas mileage as you can and the whole nine. And it's something as simple as changing your filter is like an oil change for your, you know what I mean, for your system basically. So, you know, especially with customers, I try to inform them that you need to put just as much of an emphasis on your heating and air as a priority as you do your vehicle. Just because inevitably it's funny. Inevitably, that system usually breaks when you've got family coming in out of town or it's coming up on a holiday or something like that. It's the most inopportune time is when something always seems to break. So to prevent that, I think that's just changing a mindset and seeing if you can put it as a priority.
And Drew, on that, you know, being in the service department, do you know what the percentage figure is of our customers that are on our maintenance plan of how often they have a failure?
I want to say it's less than 5%.
Yeah, I think last time we looked at about 4%.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So 4% of the time something breaks. And, you know, and again, it's just due to the routine maintenance. I mean, we're able to catch, like Steve said earlier, you know, you've got a compressor and it's the heart of your refrigeration system. It's not cheap. You know what I mean? And something as simple as a filter can literally kill a compressor. So by us doing the maintenance and anything in general like that, we catch little things to be able to help prevent those big ticket items, you know. So, yeah.
I think for me, you know, a lot of people, the thing that they see is the thermostat, right? And so I want the coolest, awesomest thermostat, right? And I can hook up on my phone and it tells when I'm coming home and it's going to turn it on for me, right? I mean, so that's actually something they can handle. They can put in their hands, they can touch, right? The rest of the system they can't, right? They can open their garage and see their furnace or mechanical closet door, open it and see it, but it's not something to play with. But for me, I'm an airflow guy, right? So if I'm going to, you know, a lot of people get hung up on efficiency and how efficient is that thing. I mean, you can have the most efficient furnace and most efficient AC system, but if you've got trash for ductwork, your efficiency's trashed, right? And so if you've got the proper duct system that's already installed in the home, upgrading to a higher efficiency furnace is much easier, because if we do go put that high efficient stuff in there, we're going to have to address that ductwork, you know, adding that extra ticket to it. So for me, I'm all about that airflow. We keep talking about filters, and filters definitely have to do with airflow, but a system is not the thermostat. A system is not the furnace or the air conditioning system. It's all that stuff with the ductwork all working together.
Yeah, it's a complete system. Yeah, A lot of people, you know, I see a lot of, speaking of horror stories of, you know, customers, well, I invested in this new system, you know, a few years ago or whatever, and XYZ company came in and installed that for me, and you know, if I had issues with it from day one, but really realizing that there's more components to your system than just that.
The box.
Just the thermostat. You know, it all plays a big factor. So those vents in your ceiling or your floor play a major factor in that.
Yeah. I mean, we can go slap the same furnace in, or we can leave that existing furnace that they had that they're so frustrated that it keeps breaking and address the ductwork system, and it works phenomenal. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting how that works.
Yeah. So now we'll step back and forth here for the next couple questions as far as pros to homeowners. So as a homeowner, what benefits will I gain being on your maintenance program?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, realistically, with being on the maintenance program, we're able to, like I said before, we're able to catch some of those little capacitors or little things that can prevent major failures. But ultimately, the benefit is less downtime, and realistically, barring, like Steve said, your ductwork, stuff like that. But we're able to extend the life of the equipment. Again, if you refer back to a vehicle, someone who gets the oil changed every X amount of miles gets, all these little steps that the manufacturer recommends. For the most part, those vehicles are the ones that are on the road running a lot better with less problems. It's the same concept with your heating and air conditioning system. You get less downtime, more efficiency. And again, when grandma's coming into town from way back, it's been years, and she shows up and your furnace goes down, you know what I mean? That's a huge stress, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying we can prevent everything, but realistically, we can definitely help prevent some of the stuff that we can see in advance with, doing regular routine maintenance for sure.
And I always hit that pretty hard with customers, as far as just pointing out the fact that it's not preventative maintenance. Nobody with a mechanical piece of equipment can prevent 100% of something from happening, but we can minimize it, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of a minimizing your risk is what
Absolutely.
it is of a failure. Every new car can have a problem too, but having that routine maintenance done can address that.
Yeah.
Well, changing the oil doesn't keep you from getting a flat tire,
Yeah.
It's checking your tire pressure doesn't even keep you from getting a flat tire. So it's hard. You hit the wrong pothole or just freak deals, tire comes apart. Like you said, mechanical is mechanical. So it's kind of hard to call it preventable. I was glad you said that, because that was what I was going to say next, about just explaining to the customer, like, yeah, it's not preventable. Nothing's preventable, but we can't see the future, but we can definitely catch some problems. That's for sure.
Planned maintenance, baby. Planned maintenance.
For me, I think it's one of those deals as far as a customer being on our plans is life happens, right? Stuff goes on, and next thing you know, it's Christmas again. We just had it, right? And a lot of stuff goes on. I think one of the major benefits is we call our customers and remind them, hey, it's time. It's time for your maintenance, right? I wouldn't do it. I got to have a dentist call me every now and then when it's time for my cleaning. They put me on the schedule board and I put it in my phone, but I don't think about it again. But either that text or whatever that is that comes through and says, hey, man, it's time to do that. Oh, yeah, I better get that done. And so it puts that on, and it takes that stress or whatever off the customer. Some people are disciplined enough to have a schedule and keep it and do that, but reality is life, and stuff happens, and we forget about those little things.
So then also, to go along with that question, we do offer, the commercial maintenance plan. So what benefits as a business owner and being a business owner would you say you gain from being on a commercial maintenance plan?
Right. I think it's one of those deals, depending on your type of business that you're running. You want your employees to come to a place that's comfortable to work, right? You want them to be able to come and perform whatever it is that their tasks are for the day and be able to do that. Or if you have, let's just say a restaurant or something like that, and their system goes down, well, their customers are coming in and it's hot in there, or it's super cold and it's not a pleasant place to be. Right? That obviously it's either going to turn off customers or it's going to turn off employees. That, man, this thing never works, and just being able to know that there's that peace of mind. Obviously, there's operation costs as well. Owning a business and looking at numbers all the time is, what does this cost? What's this costing us this? And most people don't understand that their HVAC system is a majority of their utility cost, right? And if it's these simple things of cleaning the coils, which we do in those commercial maintenance ones, changing those filters, keeping that up, and keeping those operation costs down, well, at the end of the day, those just land back at the bottom line on that.
So from now on, we're going to let Steve go first, because he said what I was going to say.
Me too.
Yeah. So from now on, Richard, he goes last, and then he can figure something out, because
Iron those
yeah,
up. I'm
yeah. No,
That's what I was going for. I finally let him go first.
Yeah,
and now we're going to.
Yeah, so next time you think about doing that, you need to check with us too first, because that can't happen ever again.
Please let me start on commercial maintenance. That's
Like Steve said, I mean, he hit a nail on the head. I mean, most commercial buildings, 32% of your energy consumption is your HVAC systems. There's a chart that we use from the Department of Energy, and 32% is your HVAC, 25% is your lights, and everything else gets divvied in for everything else. So, when I'm sitting down and I'm talking to a business owner, it's one of those, I'm letting them know that even though your lights are turned off, you're still trying to maintain temperature inside your building, and it is too, I mean, especially in the heating season, it's not only maintaining something comfortable for your customers and employees, but there's a safety factor. So you've got carbon monoxide you have to worry about, the whole nine. So, when we go out and do stuff, we make sure we run a CO test on each piece of equipment to make sure it's operating safely, not only for the customers, but the employees as well. And I think too, it takes that, again, to reiterate, Steve, don't let them go first, because it's just repeating everything.
I got another one too. I'm going to keep it in my back pocket.
I will.
Throw that out
Yeah,
there in a second. Make sure Skylar doesn't get it.
But part of that is these chairs are hard. So I'm trying to get it out, and so we can.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that we take that headache off of the business owner, and we schedule everything for them. We call the home or the business owner in advance, say, hey, it's that time. Can we come out? We get it taken care of, and that way we don't have to worry about going, man, I don't feel like I've seen them in a while. Is it time? Do I need to call them? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? As a business owner, right? I mean, Steve, you can attest, you got a lot on your plate. The last thing you want to worry about is you got a maintenance program. Am I supposed to call them? It gets put by the wayside. So, that's one thing for us is we make sure we take a lot of that headache off their plate. And we like headaches. We have a lot of Excedrin and stuff here in the office. So we take that.
It's all in your desk.
It is. It's
every
pathetic.
time you're not here, I know exactly where to go. I go right for it.
Yeah. Bottom drawer, baby.
Yeah. It's my turn.
Yeah.
Man, for me, I guess, I know quite a bit about, kind of what goes into the commercial maintenancing and stuff like that. And obviously, I don't have an extensive background in, commercial maintenance. I've never been a maintenance tech, nothing like that. But to me, just thinking if it was me, the bottom line is most businesses aren't open on the weekend. Or they close down for a week during, Christmas time or the holidays or whatever it is. I mean, how crappy of a feeling would it be for you to come back and your pipes are frozen, your building's flooded, all because your HVAC system didn't work, even though no one was there, no one knew about it, nothing. And then after the holidays or whatever have you, after a long weekend, you come in and, man, if I just would have changed those filters, none of this would ever happen. My unit tripped out on a limit switch, and now everything's flooded, and all I had to do was get a little bit of maintenance done. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I've done some pretty dumb stuff in my life, but I couldn't imagine, that being one of them. So that would be a pretty hard pill to swallow, especially like you said earlier, like a $10 filter would have changed everything for us right now.
Yeah.
Like we have to replace sheetrock. We're doing this, we're doing that, all over a $10 filter.
Yeah. Just had added unexpected expense.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Or even a belt, right? We're talking about commercial buildings, and a lot of those are belt-driven systems.
Mm-hmm.
Losing a belt or something like that on there. Drew, I know we've, being in the service side, we see this all the time, right? We'll go to a commercial building that's got 10, 12, 13 rooftop package units on it. And whether we're doing a maintenance or whatever it may be, the way that these buildings are designed, whether 2-story, whatever it is, and big open areas, they may not realize that a system is down.
Till it's too late, man.
And so the system's down, and the tough part about that is the way these buildings are engineered and designed on the HVAC side. That specific unit is designed to heat and cool this specific spot. And so if we're relying on these other two units to help out with that, well, that's not what they're designed to do. So now it causes those things to overwork, driving up those costs as well. And so I think, having eyes on that on a routine basis kind of helps that situation of overextending some other pieces of equipment and overworking them while this guy's just sitting there doing nothing. So
That, or even going along the same lines with that, Steve, where, and I know you've seen it, where one system goes down, one or two systems are trying to pick up the slack, and one or two of the ones that are working are now down or frozen over in the heating season. So now you got one system trying to do the job of three, and Next thing you know, we get a call and they've got no cooling and all 3 systems are down because they didn't catch the first one. They didn't notice it in time.
Yep.
So if we look at the average residential home, how much would you guesstimate your heating and cooling system runs in hours per year? I'm going to start with Drew.
I'm going to let Steve take this one.
Nope, Skylar.
3,000.
3,000. Oh, man.
That's what I went with.
Obviously it depends on
What's the
your.
over and under on this?
I think I'm right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like Price is Right. You go over, so you just don't get to play the game.
3,001, Bob.
$299. 9. So
Right. I think it's.
The price is wrong.
I think it depends on the region, right? I mean, obviously, living in the Four Corners area, we enjoy all 4 seasons, right? And so I think there's certain areas like the Phoenix area, you're going to have a lot longer run times on your ACs. But I think overall average in our region right here is going to be that 3,000 mark. I think we've seen some literature on that. And that's, I believe that's where we're at.
not gonna lie.
Go ahead and open door number 3. You won a brand new car.
I cheated. We just went over this.
I think I was closer. I was over 3,000. 3,001.
If you're over, you're out, dude.
But he didn't. I think it's.
So I know.
Rules. That's what he said.
I think I was better.
I know we've talked about that number before, so we were all a little bit familiar with it. But I think that's what I'd convey to a homeowner is, if you sit in your house for an hour watching your favorite TV show, pay attention to how much your heater runs during this time of year. Pay attention in the summertime how much in that hour your air conditioner is running, right? And if it's out of sight, out of mind, you're not thinking about it. And then we think about 3,000 hours a year. Quick math will run through the figures. That's like 180,000 miles on your car in 1 year. Mm-hmm. And so if you're good at routine maintenance on your vehicle, that's going to equate to about 36 oil changes. And if you pay the average going price of a oil change, that's going to equate to about $2,500 worth of oil changes to drive 180,000 miles in 1 year. And so if we really think about, I know our heating and air systems are stationary. They don't go anywhere. But when we equate that to, hey, I'm running 60 miles an hour down the road for 180,000 miles in one single year, I think the average person probably puts on 20,000 miles on their vehicle. I don't know. What would you say your average?
Yeah, about 20. And
close.
that's my wife's car, running the kids and doing this and doing that, So that's... I'm tired of driving at that point. 20,000. I'm missing 160.
Yeah.
Poor furnace.
Yeah. But what's really nice about that, right? You think about that. That's 25. That's 36 times that you've spent in an oil change shop to go in and get your oil changed, and then $2,500. And to say that your maintenance or your HVAC system can be maintained by just having 2 visits from a professional HVAC company is pretty reasonable. I only need 2 times a year to have that system fully gone through and fully inspected and checked. Outside of that, obviously, there's some filters and stuff you have to be aware of as a homeowner, but just to have a professional come in 2 times a year for that 3,000 hours of operation is pretty reasonable.
And if you circle back too, you think about 186,000 miles and don't do a single oil change.
That's rough.
I wish
Not
they'd come to my house to change my oil. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that'd be real nice.
Yeah, you don't even have to bring your equipment in.
Yeah,
We'll come to you.
Man,
Please don't pull your furnace out.
just
and
show
bring
up with your furnace, please. Yeah,
Please don't.
it. Did you grab the filter? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, I left it.
But yeah, I think, a lot of times we use that car analogy, right? And it is, some of the stuff we talk about is we go look at these vehicles and we're going to buy a vehicle and vehicles aren't cheap anymore, right? But if you're lucky enough to have a garage, you're going to park that vehicle in that nice garage when it's snowing and raining outside and doing that thing, and you're going to go to bed, but the whole time that furnace is running, right? And you're expecting it to run when you wake up tomorrow morning, because I don't want to wake up cold, but we often neglect those things.
A new system that's been installed, does it need maintenance?
If you want it to run. You buy a new car, would you change the oil on it? Yeah, you would, right? In the first couple months, I guarantee it, depending on how much you drive. Same thing with your system, Just because it's new doesn't mean it doesn't need maintenance. You don't have to rotate the tires. You don't have to change the tires out after so long. You don't have to, you don't have to clean it or wash it or change your brakes or check your brakes or, do any of that. Change your spark plugs. Just because it's new doesn't mean, as long as it's getting used, it needs to be maintenance regardless, no matter what it is. That goes for anything in life.
And I think where we live, right, there's just that whole thing of every spring that dirt's going to blow, right? If you got an AC system, especially if you're not used to having an AC system, you had a swamp cooler or something like that. But you move to AC, we get that dirt storm every year that comes around for about 3 months, or we get cotton. The guys that live down by the river, absolutely. And if they're not used to this stuff, that stuff plugs up that coil, right? And it can do it real fast, especially when the cotton starts flying. And so stuff like that even if it is a new system, it still needs eyes on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like Steve said, just your natural surrounding stuff, that the cotton, the dirt, the whole nine, stuff that, especially if you're not used to refrigerated, at least I'll speak for myself. Not having refrigerated air before even coming here to New Mexico, let me rephrase that, owning a house that had refrigerated air, right? So, but before then, I had no idea. Growing up, we had a furnace and then a fireplace, like Steve. That was our primary source of heat. Living in the mountains in Colorado, there was no cooling. We didn't need it growing up. There was just never needed it. So coming down here after moving here type deal is always had Steve to lean on. Know Steve for, how many years? A long time.
20-ish.
Yeah. So if I ever had any questions or anything, I'm calling Steve. But it's just the nature of where we live with cotton, dirt, the whole nine. It's just impressive how quick it can, just like a filter, it'll mess your system up. So the routine maintenance will definitely help catch that, right? So even if we went and did a visit and you notice, and you're down by the river, you notice all that cotton flying, this, that, and the other, go take a look at that. Go see what that outdoor coil looks like. And because even then, it's still got to be taken care of, because we might have went there before the cotton flew or what have you. So
yeah, best case scenario, we get there, later part of June, right, when it gets done flying, because it's something we show up, middle of April, early May, the cotton's not flying yet. It starts flying, whenever. It changes a little bit week to week, but by the end of June, early July, usually it's done flying, and now your stuff's all covered in cotton. So there's ways to prevent that.
And Skylar doesn't need any more ugly sweaters.
Yeah,
we don't need to come pull a blanket of cotton off your condenser so Skylar can have another sweater. All right, let's think for a minute. Okay, so with your knowledge that you have of the industry, if you're the homeowner and you're having Robbins come out and check your AC system, and you could only pick one component of that system to be checked, what would it be?
Furnace for me.
What time of year
is it okay, seasonal, or how's that work?
So let's take that a step further. Not just the piece of equipment, but which component within the piece of equipment would you choose to have checked?
Okay, but do I want heat or do I want cooling?
You pick.
Okay.
I want you to both of them.
Not just the piece of equipment?
Not just a piece of equipment. What component inside of it do you want looked at?
I need you to check my blower wheel and my blower motor, because without that, you don't have heating or cooling. So that's
Mm-hmm. So then, on a maintenance plan, what do you get with that? Why do you want that checked?
After time, right? If we're not changing our filters, or just over time in general, even if you change your filters out all the time, right? You can't catch everything, so that stuff's going to start sticking to your squirrel cage, or your blower wheel, your blower housing at that, and it's gonna after you get that buildup on there, it's going to cause problems. Same thing with your motor. It's going to start overamping itself. It's going to burn itself out eventually, right? So you're better off just not even going that route in the first place and having it cleaned once a year or something of that nature. I at my house personally, I clean mine once a year just to, because I've seen the effects that it could cause. And then once you don't have one, if something were to happen, you lose a louver on your blower wheel or something like that, you're kind of screwed. Even if you work in the industry, there's nothing really you can do on the spot. You're not even rigging anything up or anything of that nature. So, dirty blower wheel could cause a number of things, but a motor is one of the more expensive parts on a furnace to get changed out. So any way I could protect that, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at on your maintenance end of that.
And then Drew, in the service department, what are your maintenance techs looking for on a silver or gold membership on our valued customer plan?
So on both, I mean, on the gold, I mean, we're going in and we're pulling that blower housing twice a year. And we're cleaning it, that blower wheel, the housing, the motor, the whole nine, as well as, on the heat side, we're pulling the burner assembly and we're cleaning all of that, so it all goes into one. AC side, we're cleaning both the indoor and outdoor coils, again, on the gold side. So we ensure, like Steve talked about earlier, that airflow side of stuff, to make sure that within those boxes parameters that everything is at least clean and free flowing as possible until it hits that pivotal point of the ductwork. So that's our main thing. And when we're checking the motors, stuff like that, we're making sure our amperage and our voltages are good. And realistically, we're letting it run for a while, and then we're making sure our bearings are okay. Because the last thing we want is bearings starting to go overheating, and then that motor, like Skylar said, that motor stops working, and now we're in trouble. You don't have heating or cooling. There's zero airflow. So
I think the component that I would check that if I knew about heating and air conditioning as a customer, mine would be the compressor contactor. Most of the time, people probably know they're going to have a heart attack before they have a heart attack. I mean, sometimes it just happens, and some people go to the doctor and get their cholesterol checked, and the doc says, "Hey, man, you need to eat your vegetables." That just happened to me, by the way. I eat some vegetables. And
most of them are green too.
Yeah. No, there's some.
Can you eat the white ones?
Yeah.
The potatoes? Yeah. Does that count?
Yeah,
It's awfully starchy.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, it's one of those deals where if we can prevent our heart, which the compressor being the heart of the system, if we can prevent that from failing by the component that controls the voltage going to it. Again, we live in an area that is not free from dust and dirt and ants and lizards and mice and snakes. And we've seen all kinds of stuff that crawl up into these units and interfere with the electrical components.
Scare you.
Yeah. You open the panelets.
When you're expecting a snake.
Bees, wasps. Yeah.
Not good.
All of it, right? And so if that component there is failing or starting to go bad, I mean, that's definitely, I'd much rather pay $120 or eat my vegetables than go have heart surgery, right? I mean, that just doesn't sound like a good day. So for me, being in the industry, I know what that is, and that's one of the things that I'm going to check 100% every time if I go out.
One of these days, we'll catch on video the sight that everybody needs to see of a 6'3", 250-pound man running across the roof because wasps are chasing him.
Yeah. It's
more than once.
More than one time. That's what I was going to say. That is also including into your maintenance plan.
Yeah. You mean that part's free.
If we damage your roof, we'll take care of it.
Yes. You remember that one that was down there by the Y on the west side, and we did that one? Were you there when we pulled that cooler off, and there was like 4 wasp nests in it, and
Bubba went to put the panel back on, and he dropped it.
we all took off running, but there was nowhere to go because there was a 5-on-12 2-story pitched roof.
Running in circles.
Waving our hands around, acting crazy man, that was not fun.
No. Gosh, no.
I don't think you told me a component. What do you think?
Mine's going to be a capacitor for either the heating or the cooling. If my blower motor has a cap, then same thing. It's one of those. It's something that helps provide electricity to either the compressor or the motor. It's like a battery for your car. You can't go anywhere if your battery's dead. So for me, it's the capacitor. Something as simple as that can completely cause havoc because it's causing another component to work, especially the compressors try to work extra hard because it's either running low or not hot at all. So it's overheating. So mine's a capacitor.
It's hard to narrow it down to just one, but thinking about it, like I care a whole awful lot about my family, and I know with our maintenance visits, we always check carbon monoxide in the heating season. So just making sure that thing's drafting properly and being aware of especially an older furnace, which any can do it. Any gas burning appliance can cause carbon monoxide. So on those maintenance visits, just if a technician was the only thing he could do, come in and check and made sure I didn't have carbon monoxide, that my family was safe. I think that'd mean a lot to me. So
Had a way to make the rest of us look bad. We all went with comfort. He's all, well, I want to make sure my family's safe first and foremost. I'm like, oh,
I just want to protect my heart.
that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
all right. Just to wrap everything up, what do you see as we go out and do maintenance visits, especially on these systems we've kind of talked about that have been neglected? What do we do differently that you've seen that, either a homeowner or other companies don't do?
Well, like I said before, I think what we do differently is on the service side, and I know install too. I mean, our main goal when we go into any call is to ensure the customer knows more about their system when we got there. So as technicians, our main goal is, yes, to go in and figure out why it's not working on a demand call or maintenance to make sure everything's working correctly. But, I think the biggest thing for us is making sure the customer understands exactly what they've got. Just because we put it in doesn't necessarily mean that they truly understand. And you guys do a great job, Richard, on your side explaining everything, but it's always good to hear multiple times, before something really sinks in, So, our biggest thing is when we go into a maintenance program, or if you're in a maintenance program or something, we come in, our guys inform and educate you as far as what your system does, how it works, where and how to change your filter. You know what I mean? Because if we come in every 6 months or so and that filter's completely hammered, hey, just as a heads up, you might want to try every 3 months at this point, and here's how you do it. You know what I mean? So I think for us, that's the biggest thing is just to inform and educate. Because, the more information a customer has, homeowner has, business owner has on their system, the better it is in general, because in the end, sometimes that can help us as service techs too. Hey, this unit, which is right above here, we got 15 RTUs on the roof. This one's not working. Now I got to try and figure out which thermostat goes to what and this, that, and the other. But if the customer knows and we've labeled stuff and, hey, RTU 7 is down. Hey, okay. Now that saves my technician some time trying to figure out what unit is not working type deal. So go ahead.
You want me to jump in?
Yeah, you go first.
I think like one of the differences that I've seen that we do is it may not necessarily be in the home, right? We do a lot of training with our guys. We do a lot of training in the field. We bring them in the office. We do training here. We have training stations that we put them on. So don't get me wrong, I'm a blue collar guy, right? I like to fix and repair and do that stuff. If I don't have to pay somebody to do it, I'll do it. But there are those instances where it might have been a little cheaper had I just had somebody else do that, right? Because they know how to do it, and right, a time consuming side of it as well. But yeah, I think the added extra training that we put into not only our technicians, but our installers, our office staff, our sales department, our managers, I think that's one of the deals that kind of, it's hard to put that in a dollar amount as far as what you could charge for that. And being able to have those guys go out into the field with the confidence and knowing on how they work on these systems is beneficial all the way across, not just to them and them providing for their families, but the customers that they come in contact with. They can have that confidence knowing that this guy's got investment behind him. He's got some experience. He's got some time built into understanding and perfecting his craft. I think for us, that we kind of pride ourselves on our training in getting these guys to be able to be their best. So,
Well, I think with that, that training leads into what we can then offer the customer, right? Is my 6-year-old, my daughter, you could, any person could not have a care about anything mechanical, not want to touch their heating and cooling system, but they could change a filter.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can change a filter. And I think as far as that training goes, then we set these technicians up with, instruments and tools and knowledge to go out and go above and beyond. Check this and know what it means. If I get a bad reading on a motor, this is what I know what it means. If I get a bad reading here, or I can understand that there's a problem, and this is how it needs to be addressed. And so for me, that's what I've seen as far as how we approach that maintenance differently than others. We're not there just to do what a homeowner can do. Say hi, change a filter, and get out. Or we're going to really dig through that system, go through a complete 20 plus point inspection. I don't know what the exact number
26
is.
26 and up.
Yeah, so 26 point and beyond, depending on your plan level, and really dig in and check all those components and find those problems before they could become big problems. So.
I think for me, it would, right, you spoke on maintenance and things of that nature, and Steve kind of touched on this, but I think it's the culture that we've created here, right? We've created, and through our hiring process and all that jazz, we've got guys that are just full of integrity all the time, right? They're not there to be your salesman. They're not there to do anything. Like, if your dog gets out, our guys are not just going to let it run away, right? They're going to go tackle it and choke it out like
Like you should.
like
Bring it back
like the
to
average person, like you would do if you were home. So, but no, but in all seriousness, like I mean, I've been there countless times and watched our guys go above and beyond, right? You're opening a furnace closet, something like that, the door squeaks, the hinge is not working properly, the door doesn't latch good, whatever the fact may be. The guys are going to stop, take 5 minutes out of their day and fix it, and they'll probably never tell you about it, and you may never know about it, but it did get done, and like Steve was kind of saying earlier, it's hard to put a dollar amount on that, and I think that's a test to the security you get whenever how we stand out versus other companies. Not saying that those guys are bad, but I can guarantee that they don't put the time and the effort and the training and try to give these guys the skill set like we do. So I think that's got to set us apart from any other company. So
Final thoughts.
Oh, I get it last.
I think the biggest thing is like kind of with the maintenance and stuff like that is making sure your HVAC system is on the forefront, much like your vehicle. Just changing that perception of it's not just a box. You know what I mean? It provides a lot more than that. So for me, it's a matter of just changing that perception and, get that thing maintained.
yeah, if it doesn't matter if you use a forced air system, a radiant heat system, it doesn't matter if you have a swamp cooler or a 21 SEER condenser on refrigerated, it doesn't matter. It needs maintenance regardless, right? Swamp cooler more than anything. But at the end of the day, sometimes it'll cost you a lot less money. It's a lot less painless, if you just pay attention to that filter. Pull your filter out if you haven't, and for some reason you listen to this, pull your filter out and check it and be like, oh, okay, maybe, at least we change something and, we might save you thousands of dollars at the end of the day. So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I'd say my final thoughts would be kind of along those same lines. Like Steve mentioned, I like to do some stuff myself, and partly because I kind of grew up that way too. My family, we didn't have a lot of money, but my dad also was the type that if he could do it, he would do it. And sometimes it turned around and bit him, and it costs a lot more in the long run to do it yourself than let somebody do it for you. And so I think as I grew up with more of a penny pincher mentality, you start to push those, expand your mental and understand that sometimes you can pay somebody to do something more than what you can do, and it's definitely worth the cost. And so for me, final thoughts would be just, there's other things, yes, you can spend your money on besides maintaining your heating and air system. You can buy the next game controller, you can, whatever you're into, right? You can take that money, but it's not well spent. For me, I understand that now, that spending my money wisely to maintain something that in the long run will save me money is huge. And so my final thoughts are, I think it doesn't matter it's not so much the cost; it's what you're getting from the service that helps you in the long run. So.
I think for me, I mean, we mentioned it earlier about the cost it is to operate the system. We can all agree that the utility companies' bills are not going down. If anything, they're necessarily skyrocketing. Is that what was said once upon a time?
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where utility costs are just going to keep increasing, right? And depending on the system, you can pay for it once. If we were going to change the system, if you choose to go with a higher SEER rating or a higher efficiency furnace or AC or whatever it is, there is that initial cost up front. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We're going to continue to pay those utility costs. And maintenance is going to be one of those things that we can control how much of those utility costs we pay. Obviously, we're talking about systems and airflow and filters and stuff like that. I don't want to pay more to the gas company or to the electric company or whatever it is, but the result of me not doing the maintenance on it is that's exactly what I'm choosing to do, whether I, consciously do that or not. And the other thing is one of those deals where we tell people that their system should last about 20 years. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some systems out there that we pull out that are 50 plus years old,
Some
right?
old ones, yeah.
Old school ones.
And it's one of those deals where those ones that are in there for 40 years, those were very diligently taken care of. And you can tell that when you go to pull it out.
They're clean as the day that they bought them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A little bit of
faucet's
fading.
clean.
That's about it.
Yeah, and so it can be extended, right? I mean, if you look at the warranties and stuff like that in the industry, a couple of the manufacturers on some of their higher end stuff have lifetime heat exchangers, lifetime compressors. But generally, it cuts off at 20-year heat exchanger, 10-year parts. And so when you're looking at some of this stuff and understanding how much is it going to cost me to do this, that, or the other, maintenance is going to be one of those deals that's going to save you in the end. If you can buy another 5-10 years out of your system as opposed to having to swap it out every 10 years, that's a big dollar amount that people can put to doing whatever they want, right? Stuff they like to do.
All right. So officially concluding our podcast number 1 with Drew, Skylar, Steve, and I. And he'd join us back here for the next one whenever that happens.
Stay tuned.
Wahoo.
Robbins
Wahoo.
Podcast number 1.
Robbins Podcast.
First ever. One of those guys.